Look, sometimes there's no need for a super long intro in a video. This right here is the laptop. I got it from Lenovo. It's the Lenovo ThinkBook 16P. Kind of looks like a Legion, but also kind of looks like a business machine. That's basically how I describe it. If you're looking for something that's like a Lenovo Legion, gaming type performance, but it's all metal with an amazing screen, amazing speakers, all metal design, and I gave it a really good review last year, then watch this review. Okay, here's a look at the laptop. Spoiler alert, I've been using this laptop for 1 month, I think, maybe longer at this point. I'm not sure. I bought it the day it came out and I've just been using it because I love this laptop. So that's a spoiler. This is the ThinkBook 16P. It was one of my favorite laptops last year. I just loved it. It's like a Legion, but just kind of also not at the same time. ThinkBooks are highly ranged with the Lenovo. You know, they can go from the low end all the way up to the pretty high end like this here that would compete with some of Lenovo's highest end stuff like, you know, the Yoga and that, like the Yoga 9i. It's obviously a thicker chassis. It's not meant to be super thin. It's meant to be performant, hence the P. So that's the ThinkBook 16P. Lenovo also makes 16 that are not P. This is a 16 Plus, Chinese only model. You can't actually buy this in the West because I don't know. But they also just have like the ThinkBook 15 and 16 just normal over here. And they'll have the same type of chassis. You can see that they're very, very similar looking laptops, but they are different in some ways. You can see the P is thicker, right? Because it has a lot more cooling inside. Spoiler for that as well, right? Quite a bit thinner. It's still not a super thin laptop, but it's thinner, I'd say. This is, you know, slightly thicker laptop, but it's also not a thick laptop. It's kind of in the middle. You know, it's almost like gaming, like a thin gaming laptop. If you watch my video, its closest competitor would actually be the Legion 7i Slim, 7 Slim. But you can see here on the ThinkBook 16P, takes some from the Legion where you get some ports on the back. You get I/O, you get cooling on the back there, and you get some I/O on the back too, right? So that's really cool. That's a ThinkBook 16 Plus, which is to do a comparison here. This is not a Legion 7 Slim. Legion 7 Slim I think would be probably a bit closer to this. And this is also kind of like in between, I guess I'd say. This is a Legion 5 Pro. This is an AMD model, but the Intel's the same. You can see there that the Legion is a little bit taller, right? Basically slightly more than a guitar pick taller on the front, just ever so slightly, and on the back a little bit extra. But they have the same type of design language, right? All metal on this top, bottom, and the interior is all metal. This is a Legion 5 Pro, so it has a metal top. And then you get some more plastic, right? The bottom is plastic on these here. When you get to the 7 Pro, they become metal on the bottom, but not for the 5. And then this is also plastic. So these are much more premium than a lot of the Legions. Really, you got to get up into the 7 series where you're going to get, you know, as much premium as this. And honestly, not even the 7 Pro, 7i Pro or 7 Pro, there's more plastic. Like they have a plastic keyboard deck. It's the 7 Slim or 7i without the Slim. 2024, they dropped that name. Plastic keyboard deck, but very rigid on the Pro at least. This is all metal, right? Slightly different keyboard. This has a smoother texture to it. And the keyboard on them is really both are quite nice. However, the ThinkBooks have better keyboards. Let's bring in a Lenovo Legion, not a Slim, but just a standard 5i. This is a 5i review that I'm working on here. You can see the similarities between it. They're basically the same size. So this is a Lenovo Legion. You can see that the height is basically the same. Really, the tiniest bit bigger on the front of this one, tiniest bigger on the back of that one. Whatever. They have the same general footprint, right? You can see that there. Same general footprint. And yeah, very, very, very similar. It's just kind of the way they are. This is a tiny bit thicker, I guess, like a little bit of the plastic there. You can see the Lenovo Legion just a tiny bit thicker. This is a plastic body though. There are Lenovo Legions that are all metal, like the Legion 7. It's also thinner. This one here would probably be the closest, I guess, in terms of just like straight up design. You just basically go like that. Nice metal bottom there, right? Very good. You get places you could put thermal pads for the two NVMEs if you want. You put a nice big thermal pad. This is just some structure stuff. Intake, metal bottom, and that's a look inside the actual laptop there. So it actually has pretty good cooling, right? It's not going to be as beefy as some of the thick gaming laptops out there, but it's not meant to be a super thick gaming laptop with super high watts or anything like that, but it is very performant. You'll see when we get to that point. But overall, you can see here, it's definitely a very nice laptop inside. Nice big battery, 80 watt hours. I guess they could put in 100 watt hours, but I mean, you're gonna then have to move stuff around, maybe compromise a bit. So that's the choice they made. You get nice big speakers on this. You'll see when we get to the audio section, these things have incredible speakers. Last year, I was a huge fan of the speakers on this laptop. They do fire down on an angle as well, so they're not gonna go directly into the table and be muffled. Fantastic. Nice upgradability on this laptop here. You get one NVMe on the left here, full size 2280, copper heatsink on top of that. Then there's an empty slot on the right, so you can easily pop in a second one, get dual storage. Fantastic. You do get SODIMM upgradable underneath there as well. Looks like we get 2 sticks of 8 gigabytes. That's just how I spec'd it out. I got this through the builder. I have loads of RAM lying around, so you can spec this out how you want. You could put in 32, whatever. I just went with 16 because I have a lot of RAM lying around, so easy to put that in there. Of course, it's DDR5. And then, of course, you do get your Wi-Fi over here, also upgradable, not soldered. Very nice. The cooling is actually very good, too. You can see there it's got nice thick fans, right? Approximately a centimeter, slightly under a centimeter, maybe 9 millimeters thick there. Very dense fins on it as well, right? So it's going to move a lot of air. Should help with turbulence, not be too noisy. There are beefier cooling solutions out there, but on a performance type, a creator, professional laptop like this, I mean, we're approaching gaming laptop level cooling here, right? 2 heat pipes there, not going to be vapor chamber, like a 4 heat pipe setup, but they're nice and thick heat pipes there. You get lots of VRM coverage there. I just got this with a 14500HX. You can get this with an i7. I think you can get an i9, like a 14900HX. I think that's overkill. I mean, the performance on them, all of them are going to be outstanding. And I think that, going down slightly to something like an i5, maybe an i7, but probably the i5, to be honest, is going to be a smart solution because it's going to run a lot cooler. But again, it has the fans and it should be up to the task of cooling it. But, you can't just put all these components in a system like this and just hope that it stays cool. And you can see there the difference in the cooling. They're closer than you'd think, right? So here, nice big battery, 80 watt hours. Here, nice big battery, 80 watt hours. Looks like it's almost the same battery, not exactly. Significantly weaker speakers on a Legion, unless you get up to the 7s. This is basically in line with the 7i Pro. It's better than the 7i Slim. It's just fantastic speakers. The fans there are very similar. I think these ones are a little bit more robust, maybe. I think they might be a tiny bit taller in terms of V height, but otherwise they're quite similar. Not a huge difference there. I guess a little bit more beefy cooling here on this, whatever this chip is here. This one has a dedicated heat pipe. This one just has some extra metal, right? RAM is basically the same there. Dual NVMe. Wi-Fi, same, just moved slightly. Here you do get I guess it would be 4 heat pipes set up on the left side here, and then 3 on the right. So there is more cooling in these laptops, these Legions here. They're going to be very, very similarly spec'd out. They actually have the same GPU, 4060. I believe they run at the exact same watts as well, so the performance on the GPU should be basically identical. CPUs are slightly different. This one here has an i7. In theory, the Lenovo Legion should run slightly cooler because it does have a little bit better cooling on some different areas here. Slightly more robust fans, I think, slightly more robust fans, and definitely a little bit more heat pipe here. So in general, Lenovo Legions are designed to, just have best-in-class cooling. That's but you can see there how close the cooling is on these laptops, right? It's not a huge difference, right? 2 heat pipe, 2 heat pipe, 2 heat pipe, and then 1 extra. So you don't get that extra one to come over here, but there's still like VRM coverage here. I'm not actually sure what's under there, some kind of VRMs. They're just not placed there. You do have that extra chip there. So they're very close, right? Time jump mode. So you can see here, it's way later. I've been using this laptop a lot on and off. I've been, testing other laptops, but this is one that I just keep testing it over and over again. This was one of my favorite laptops last year, and generally of all time, at least last year's model. So it's really nice to just use this laptop. I've actually been delaying this review for a long time because I just want to keep using it. It's a super nice laptop. And one of the reasons for that is that the keyboard is probably the best on a laptop right now, of any laptop you can buy. Lenovo Legions are really up there. There's a lot of really nice from other brands too. Asus has some nice laptops on some of the thicker laptops. Lenovo in general just has nice laptops. Lenovo in general just has really nice laptop keyboards, but this is basically everything that I liked about the 2022 Lenovo Legion 7. It's a Lenovo Legion keyboard. It has the smoother texture, not those black keys that are on the new ones. It has incredibly good key travel, and it is unbelievably snappy. It's really hard to describe. You'd have to type on it. I guess the closest keyboard right now would maybe be like the Yoga 9i 16-inch, which is a similar type keyboard but lower profile. This thing is incredible. Let's give it a quick look here. You can see that it has, the keycaps aren't massive, but they're a good size, right? It's a good size keycap. And the travel is nice, right? Good travel. But the big thing is they're just super snappy, right? Really, really nice. You can see it has the smoother texture like the chassis here. I like that. I don't like matte keyboards. You can see here there's not showing fingerprints too much, but I've been using this laptop a lot. And I didn't do a wipe down or anything, which I normally do, but for a reason, because I want to show it off here. It does have backlighting. You have low, high, and then off. And there's an auto mode, which will go on. If it gets dark, it'll turn on. It's relatively light in here, so it doesn't need to, but if you go like that there, it's decent, right? It's not RGB, but it's a backlight. That's all I need. I don't need RGB. If I have RGB, I usually just turn it like purple or something and then just leave it. But backlighting is actually important because you can use your keyboard in the dark basically. So that's really nice. You get a full numpad here. It's not going to be the full size numpad. The keys aren't going to be full size. They're a little bit slimmer, but that's nice because you get like a decent size. So you're going to get a full size keyboard and a decent size numpad, but it's not massive. You don't have to have an 18-inch laptop. That's really nice. You do get shortcuts like, you can do your function Q for your performance modes there, right? You have these up here right now operating as what they kind of labeled. Volume up, volume down, brightness, right? You can hit function escape and you'll be able to rotate those out. Now they're function keys, right? Very good. And yeah, let's just do a quick typing test and you'll see why I love this keyboard just so very much. Yeah, so it's super snappy, super snappy. It's hard to describe. You just have to type on it, right? It's not some low profile, low travel thing. It has good travel, decent size, not super low profile, and it's just very snappy. I don't know how to describe the feeling. It's just super snappy. Trackpad is nice too. You get this kind of, see that ring you can see around there? That carved metal to give it a nice kind of premium look to it, where they leave the bare metal. Really, really pretty. It's a smooth texture, not glass, but it's a smooth texture, and it's nice and clicky. So overall, I just love using this laptop, right? Nice keyboard, nice trackpad, just really, really nice. Screen on this thing is incredible. There's two options. There's a 1600p screen, which is fine, I guess, but it's like a low refresh rate. I wouldn't put it that way. Then you have access to the 3.2K screen. You can see here, 3.2K. This also is a screen option on the Lenovo Legion 7, the slim model from 2023, and then now they just dropped the 7. It's just, now they dropped the slim, it's just called the 7i, but it's, the slim. They have two options as well. They have the 1600p and then they have the 3.2K screen. If you watch my video from last year, for this laptop, I do the comparison of the 1600p to the 3.2K screen. And I bring in a Legion that has the 1600p, which is literally the screen. So you can see the difference there. But the 3.2K here is incredible because for one thing, it's 3.2K. So you get even above 1600p, just shy of 4K. Yeah, it'll make it a little harder for, doing gaming tasks, but it honestly doesn't really matter because you have things like DLSS. You can just lower your resolution, right? You can put this down to like 1000 or something like that and you'll be totally fine, but just use scaling realistically. The other thing is here, even though it's a very fine resolution screen on a non-gaming laptop, it's 165 Hertz, very nice, and it's 100% DCI-P. So let's get into some color tests here and you'll see why I am in love with this laptop. Screen. So we'll come in here. Typically, I find this laptop has a shockingly good screen. Right now, this is the nicest IPS screen on the market. Really, on any laptop that isn't some like, $6,000 laptop, right? Like I can't think of any better IPS screens on a laptop. It's a non-glossy screen. Typically, if it was glossy, you get a little bit more pop, just a little bit more pop, and that's just what glossy screens do. If you watch some of my videos, if I compare, like a glossy screen versus a non-glossy screen, the glossy screens do pop slightly more. However, there's a disadvantage to a glossy screen in that it is glossy. Some people don't like that. I don't mind it because I don't work in super reflective environments, but I get it. I understand why you wouldn't like that. However, for an IPS screen, this is the nicest one you're going to get that's a non-glossy screen. And the other thing is that the colors here are incredibly vibrant. You notice it especially in the reds, 100% DCI-P. It's a gorgeous screen. Realistically, it's probably one of the nicest IPS screens on the market right now. It just is, right? If you got like an OLED, that was 100% DCI-P, not 100% sRGB OLED, but 100% DCI-P OLED. I'd say it would probably be better, probably, if it was calibrated well. It'd have better blacks than that. But the reds here are super vibrant. Blacks on the screen are good for an IPS. They're good, right? Not gonna have 100% perfect blacks because it's not an OLED, but whatever. Right? No bleed or anything. I've used this laptop at night many times. All these colors look really, the greens are also very vibrant, incredibly vibrant. We'll kick out to this one here and really try to show this off. You might see the screen pop up in some of my other videos here and there, just so you know. I've been using this kind of as like a talking point to compare to like 100% sRGB screens. So you might see it here and there. Green, super vibrant. Like actually super vibrant. This rivals some of the nicest OLED screens that I've used. Of course, OLEDs have the advantage of being absolute blacks. Other than that though, there's no real major advantage to an OLED other than, you know, there's like a few things here and there, but in terms of like looking at the screen and doing it for professional creative tasks, an OLED has absolute blacks. That's its advantage. This here has no burn-in risk whatsoever. It's very bright and it's gorgeous. If I set this beside a 100% DCI-P OLED, especially if it was a non-glossy OLED, that you couldn't really tell unless you went into a scene that had really dark blacks, like the previous video. Okay, let's do an audio test here. We'll just see here. This laptop has very good speakers. Last year, this laptop had incredibly good speakers. Looks like it has the same ones internally, but we'll see how it sounds. You will want to watch your headphones because these things do get super loud. They're typically very, very halo level speakers. Yeah, so what do I think of the speakers? They're incredible, just straight up. I found them to just be outstanding last year. Often I compare these to, like, you know, if I'm using like a Lenovo Legion, I compare them to this. I compare the Lenovo Legion often to these laptops here. I mean, there's so many different Legions, but they're kind of very similar laptops. The one of the areas where this thing absolutely blows the Legions out of the water is speakers. The only Legion that can compete with this in speakers is the 7i Pro and 7 Pro. Not the Slim 7, not any of the 5s, not by a mile. They're not even in the same realm of existence. The 9 would also be very good. Not this good, though. These speakers are incredible. They would be the same speakers that are in the Lenovo Yoga 9i 16-inch, which I said in the video has arguably in the top, I don't know, 10, I don't know how to rank them, but in the top for Windows speakers, right? It's where you're getting to the point of you're actually competing with Mac. It's not going to beat out a MacBook 16-inch. It's just not that level. But, you know, if you use these speakers after being someone who's like a Mac user, you're not going to be like, these suck, like you would with most Windows laptops. This is a very nice set of speakers. Very, very nice. So you'll see here that the thermals are probably going to be a little spicy. 14500HX. This thing comes all the way up to, I think, a 14900HX, which is crazy. I mean, you'd want like a vapor chamber and everything for that. Intel runs hot as it is, so. All right, so let's see performance mode. Immediate throttling, as you can see, on performance mode. Again, it's a 14500HX, not just an H. So they put in the big beefy ones this year, the HX rather than just the H. They run hotter, right? It's just the way that they are. I guess you can tune them a bit more. You could probably do some underclocking. So this is specifically why I went for the 14500HX, not a 700, not a 900. I didn't want an i7, I want an i9, because they're just going to run too hot. You can see here that even with full fan, it's still getting hot. Right? And it's noisy. However, the fan noise is not annoying. It's not like a gaming laptop where sometimes there's like a whirring sound, like a or like a hissing sound. It's just fan noise, which is nice. You can throw it into balance mode, which will bring down the fan noise a bit. All right, drop down a little bit there. Silent mode is considerably quieter, obviously. But you do kill off a lot of watts to the battery, to the CPU. You can see it's still pulling a decent amount of watts on silent mode, right? 50 or so. So you can see here we're in Lenovo Vantage. You can see down here. One cool thing about Lenovo Vantage on this system here is you can do some overclocking. You can go into power mode, go into GPU overclocking, add 150 megahertz to the GPU clocks, 400 to the memory. It actually does make a bit of a difference. I tested it. It added, I think in a scene in Baldur's Gate where I was getting 60, I was getting about 68 or so. So maybe 66. So about 10% more performance, which is good. I mean, other than that, you know, you just have your typical Vantage stuff here. You can come in here and go through different screen modes, which is really nice, right? So sRGB is just kind of, it's a smaller color space. So you do crush down some of the reds in that. It's not that great. If you are printing, you know, doing professional work, you're doing photo specifically, print media, Adobe RGB is print media. P3, you can see here photography. I think that's the default. Yeah, it's not gonna make a difference. You can see that there. I just use it in default, which is P3. You know, look at the performance here. You do get that. I did pick the 14500. I did that on purpose. It's still gonna have a ton of power. I upgraded the RAM here. I had 16 gigabytes of RAM. I put in 24. You can see here now we have 5600 megahertz. It does run at 5600 megahertz. There is no faster stuff that I could put in, so that's fine. SSD SK Hynix should be nice and quick. Wi-Fi 6E should be nice and quick, and an RTX 4060 should be good. Looking at some benchmarks now, you can see here that the performance on all three modes is actually pretty good. Silent mode, we're getting around 14,000. It's actually pretty good, all things considered. Balance mode, you can see we're getting around 19,600, so very good performance on that. And then on performance mode, we're getting basically the same performance. Wi-Fi here is extremely fast, 6,650 downloads, 400 uploads. It's about as fast as my Wi-Fi goes. SSD here is also incredibly fast, upper end Gen 4. Battery life here, realistically, however, is not going to be very good. You can see here at 94%, we're just basically on idle here. It is at 100% brightness, but I did turn the refresh down. You can see here we're idling at about 23 watts or so, and this is somewhat de-bloated of a system, so adding that HX processor is going to kill your battery a little bit. You can see here they're doing some 1080p YouTube. Again, we're at 92% here. Probably just going to get a couple hours. So realistically, once you're on battery mode, you're probably going to get 2 to 3 hours out of this laptop. It's a sacrifice going with the HX processor over the H. Personally, I think this laptop would be a little better with just the H processor, but you do get a little bit more performance. However, you are sacrificing battery life. Look at the webcam on the device here. It's okay. It's actually not the brightest scene. You know, I actually turned off my overhead light. There's just some side lighting. It's okay. It's nothing special. It'll get the job done, but it's kind of like what you get on like a Lenovo Legion or something like that. It's not going to be what you get on something like a Yoga 9i, which have like a much more premium webcam, but it's fine. It's actually fine overall. Okay, and now we do some game testing. So we can see here, we're going to test out the different modes here, just kind of see what we can do. So we're in performance mode here. Let's check our settings. We'll have to turn off VSync clearly. So we're going to go with the higher resolution, 1600p. I'll just try native just to get a baseline here. Of course, we're in max there. And we'll just see what we can do performance mode. You can see you're going to get around 60 or so in the indoor areas. Most of the game is going to be like this, 60 or so. The city of Baldur's Gate's more demanding. You're getting temperature issues, not super hot, right? But it's also not going to be cool, I would say. Right, thermal throttling there. It's not going to run like that all the time, but when you get into really demanding games, potentially you could run into some issues with that. But overall, it's going to run quite well. Let's quickly switch into balance mode. See the watts go down a little bit, potentially. Yeah, CPU watts went down a little bit, GPU watts did not. The one little weird thing about this system here, it doesn't have true Legion power plants. So when you do quiet mode, balance mode, performance mode, Legions typically what they do is they drop the GPU power a bit more. They keep the CPU, it drops the CPU, but doesn't massively drop it. Whereas this ThinkBook will primarily leave the GPU up and drop the CPU, which does keep temperatures down. However, the 4060 doesn't need a lot of watts, right? So actually when you start to go through again, you go down one more, you go down to silent mode, and the GPU here, 25, 26, right? It's a huge drop off right there. So when you go from performance to balance, it drops down a little bit, and then to silent, it goes way down. Performance mode, 64, balanced mode, 55, 56, 58, it looks like. So you're only losing a few FPS, 60 basically. So really you're losing, what is that, like 6%, maybe 7% performance going between them. It does run quieter. So most of the gaming I do is just balance mode. Just why? Why would I not? Silent mode does hit the CPU a little bit too hard. It was dropping down quite a bit. Okay, we'll do Ghost of Tsushima here now. Just get a baseline. We're at quality DLSS on high. Get a baseline here. On performance mode. You can see here the performance is pretty good overall. Getting around, just shy of 60, which is quality. Can always throw in a little bit more scaling. Again, we're at a higher resolution on this laptop, so we can just throw in a little bit more scaling here. Just try balanced. That'll just make us more likely to be locked over 60. Of course, we could turn on the settings, but there's probably no point. Right, you can see that there, how well that's running. So you can see there it runs quite well. A little noisy, but it's really pulling a lot of watts here. Now we'll do some Horizon Forbidden West. This is one of my favorite games to test now, partially because it looks good and it's a demanding game, but also because it really can show off how nice a screen is realistically. On a beautiful screen like this, it really does pop quite a bit. Right, so basically the game maxed, but we have just a little bit of DLSS. It'll get you pretty close to 60, not quite, but... And man, does the game look good on this screen here. This is rivaling some of the OLED screens that I've been using recently. It's so vivid, that 100% DCI-P. Just legitimately absolutely gorgeous. It's actually nice. It's actually enjoyable to play on a laptop like this, especially if you turn up the sound here. May not come through the mic, but just having that extra bass, that clarity is quite enjoyable. Yeah, it's really rich and enjoyable to have such a nice screen, and then also to just have really good speakers and, generally speaking, pretty good performance here. I probably would throw it on balanced. Such a high resolution screen, it'll be fine. This way we're over 60 more consistently.
There's a ladder, but I can't reach it from here.
Nothing a well-placed arrow can't knock free. Just have to target the lock.
Okay, so what do I think about the ThinkBook 16P 2024 model here? Last year I loved this laptop. It's kind of in some ways weirdly the spiritual successor to the Lenovo Legion 7. So we'll go with the negatives to start here. Battery life is not good on this laptop. It has a 14th gen HX processor. They could have stepped this down to an H processor. Realistically, this laptop here would have done well with a Core Ultra. I mean, it's not an Ultrabook, right? They're not going for that like ultra thin, ultra portable type CPU, but the Core Ultra stuff is fantastic, right? You throw it in a gaming laptop with a lot of watts, it can actually do very well, and it's much better on battery life. So, I mean, as a result here, you're going to get bad battery life because of that CPU. It has a big battery, but nonetheless, that CPU just does draw a lot of power, unfortunately. So the battery life isn't not great on it. Again, an HX processor does produce a lot of heat. Intel is always going to be a bit of an issue with heat. Hopefully next gen, this is alleviated to some degree with the Lunar Lake stuff, but as it stands right now, Intel does produce a lot of heat and doesn't have great battery. So that's the negatives there. But it's also having a lot of benefits over something like a Legion. For one thing, it's much stealthier, right? Like it looks like a professional laptop, not so much like a gaming laptop, if that's something you care about. It has incredibly good speakers, much better than you can find on really most of the Legion lineup, for example. It's going to be the same type of speakers you'd find in like a Lenovo Yoga 9i. Fantastic. Outstanding keyboard. Realistically, probably the best right now on the market, unless you get into like a mechanical laptop keyboard. It's absolutely fantastic, and a gorgeous screen. My favorite IPS screen on any laptop right now is this model here, the 3.2K Lenovo screen. It's just outstanding, right? Unless you get into a glossy screen, which I do kind of prefer glossy. So if they just put a glossy sheer on this, it would be a little bit better for me. But I think for most people, they don't like glossy as much. So, and this is such a vibrant screen, you don't really need it. But I think putting an OLED in here would open the market up to people who are looking for an OLED. But this is like a creator level IPS screen. Very, very beautiful screen. So that's really looks like the laptop here. I mean, it's just a really nice laptop. The only thing you could really do to make it better is make it more expensive by adding more stuff. Like, I could put in a vapor chamber and put a 48 in it. All right, but it's also going to cost significantly more money. Oh, you could put an OLED screen in it. Well, it's going to cost more money. Right? So, I mean, anything you want to do to improve it is just going to make it more expensive. But as it is right now, it's a very well-rounded, awesome laptop. And I mean, the only way realistically to make it better is to spend more. So it's a great laptop. Definitely recommend picking it up if it's something that's within your budget and you want to go for something that has that gaming performance, professional performance chops, but also has a sleek professional look to it.